To address the nation responding to Ukrainian President Zelensky's powerful address today to the U.S. Congress. That was just a short time ago. President Biden is expected to announce new help for Ukraine now, some $800 million in new military aid to Ukraine, including anti-tank and anti-air weapons. The U.S. is said to be considering sending armed drones as well. President Zelensky calling again for a no-fly zone over his country, something the White House has already ruled out, because they say the danger of any direct engagement, of course, with Russia. And in a moving moment before Congress today, Zelensky pleading his case by playing a video of life in his country before and after Russia's invasion. The beauty of his people and his country juxtaposed with the horrific images of men, women, children killed, the buildings before, the destroyed scenes after. The video then ending with a message to close the sky over Ukraine. Knowing his American audience today, Zelensky invoking memories of Pearl Harbor and 9/11. Let's listen to the president.
Good afternoon. I want to begin by thanking President Zelensky for his passionate message this morning. I listened to it in the private residence, and he was convincing and significant speech. He speaks for a people who have shown remarkable courage and strength in the face of brutal aggression. Courage and strength that's inspired not only Ukrainians, but the entire world. Putin is inflicting appalling devastation and horror on Ukraine, bombing apartment buildings, maternity wards, hospitals. I mean, it's god-awful. I was speaking about this with our commander behind me here, General Milley. I mean, it just is amazing. Yesterday, we saw reports that Russian forces were holding hundreds of doctors and patients hostage in the largest hospital in Mariupol. These are atrocities. They're an outrage to the world. And the world is united in our support for Ukraine and our determination to make Putin pay a very heavy price. America is leading this effort, together with our allies and partners, providing enormous levels of security and humanitarian assistance that we're adding to today, and we're going to continue to do more in the days and weeks ahead. We're crippling Putin's economy with punishing sanctions that's going to only grow more painful over time, with the entire NATO and EU behind us and many other countries. What's at stake here are the principles that the United States and the United Nations and across the world stand for. It's about freedom. It's about the right of people to determine their own future. It's about making sure Ukraine will never be a victory for Putin, no matter what advances he makes on the battlefield. The American people are answering President Zelensky's call for more help, more weapons for Ukraine to defend itself, more tools to fight Russian aggression. And that's what we're doing. In fact, we started our assistance to Ukraine before this war began, as they started to do exercises along the Ukrainian border, the Russians, starting in March of last year. We took the threat of Putin invading very seriously, and we acted on it. We sent Ukraine more security assistance last year, $650 million in weapons, including anti-air and anti-armor equipment, before the invasion, more than we had ever provided before. So when the invasion began, they already had in their hands the kinds of weapons they needed to counter Russian advances. And once the war started, we immediately rushed $350 million in additional aid to further address their needs. Hundreds of anti-air systems, thousands of anti-tank weapons, transport helicopters, armed patrol boats, and other high-mobility vehicles, radar systems that help track incoming artillery and unmanned drones, secure communications equipment and tactical gear, satellite imagery and analysis capacity. And it's clearly helped Ukraine inflict dramatic losses on Russian forces. On Saturday, my administration authorized another $200 million to keep a steady flow of weapons and ammunition moving to Ukraine. Now I'm once again using my presidential authority to activate an additional security assistance to continue to help Ukraine fend off Russia's assault, an additional $800 million in assistance. That brings the total of new U.S. security assistance to Ukraine to $1 billion just this week. These are direct transfers of equipment from our Department of Defense to the Ukrainian military to help them as they fight against this invasion. And I thank the Congress for appropriating these funds. This new package on its own, is going to provide unprecedented assistance to Ukraine. It includes 800 anti-aircraft systems to make sure the Ukrainian military can continue to stop the planes and helicopters that have been attacking their people and to defend their Ukrainian airspace. And at the request of President Zelensky, we have identified and are helping Ukraine acquire additional longer-range anti-aircraft systems and the munitions for those systems. Our new assistance package also includes 9,000 anti-armor systems. These are portable, high accuracy shoulder-mounted missiles that the Ukrainian forces have been using with great effect to destroy invading tanks and armored vehicles. It'll include 7,000 small arms, machine guns, shotguns, grenade launchers to equip the Ukrainians, including the brave women and men who are defending their cities as civilians, and they're on the countryside as well. And as well as the ammunition, artillery, and mortar rounds to go with small arms, 20 million rounds in total, 20 million rounds. And this will include drones, which demonstrates our commitment to sending our most cutting-edge systems to Ukraine for its defense. And we're not doing this alone. Our allies and partners have stepped up to provide significant shipments of security assistance and will continue to help facilitate these deliveries as well. The United States and our allies and partners are fully committed to surging weapons of assistance to the Ukrainians. And more will be coming as we source additional stocks of equipment that we're ready to transfer. Now, I want to be honest with you. This could be a long and difficult battle, but the American people will be steadfast in our support of the people of Ukraine in the face of Putin's immoral, unethical attacks on civilian populations. We are united in our abhorrence of Putin's depraved onslaught, and we're going to continue to have their backs as they fight for their freedom, their democracy, their very survival. And we're going to give Ukraine the arms to fight and defend themselves through all the difficult days ahead. We're going to continue to mobilize humanitarian relief to support people within Ukraine and those who have been forced to flee Ukraine. In just the past few weeks, we provided $300 million of humanitarian assistance to the people in Ukraine and in neighboring countries. Tens of thousands of tons of food, water, medicine, and other basic supplies to support the people in need. Our experts on the ground in Poland and Moldova and other neighboring countries are there to make real-time assessments of the rapidly evolving crisis to get urgently needed humanitarian supplies to the people in need when they need it. And we will support Ukraine's economy with direct financial assistance as well. And together with our allies and partners, we will keep up the pressure on Putin's crumbling economy, isolating him on the global stage. That's our goal. Make Putin pay the price, weaken his position, while strengthening the hand of the Ukrainians on the battlefield and at the negotiating table. Together with our allies and partners, we're going to stay the course, and we'll do everything we can to push for and end this tragic, unnecessary war. This is a struggle that pits the appetites of an autocrat against humankind's desire to be free. And let there be no doubt, no uncertainty, no question. America stands with the forces of freedom. We always have and we always will. I want to thank you all and God bless you. And I'm going to walk over and sign this bill to allow the drawdown of those materials. And may God protect the young Ukrainians who are out there defending their country.
President Biden at the White House announcing additional military help for Ukraine. Just a short time after Ukraine's President Zelensky addressed the U.S. Congress, the American people, pleading for more help, pleading for a no-fly zone. The White House.
What I'm signing here.
Let's listen to the president here.
Is the delegation authority under Section 506A1 of the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961, translated into plain English, a total of $800 million in defense arms.
The president talking about $800 million in aid to Ukraine, military aid, saying $1 billion in just the last week. Again, I mentioned the no-fly zone there a moment ago. The White House saying no to that, along with NATO allies, saying it would bring us closer to possible conflict with Russia. Let's listen.
I'm not going to comment on that right now. I'm not going to comment on anything other than what I told you. Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, he's a war criminal, sir. Mr. President, are you going to go to Poland? Mr. President,
Correspondents in the room trying, but the president not taking questions today. He talked about anti-aircraft systems, anti-tank systems being sent, anti-armor. In addition, drones as well. This was all reporting that Cecilia Vega had provided us with earlier today. Let's go right to our chief White House correspondent because, Cecilia, the president talked about listening to this in the private residence. That's not something you often hear from a president on any issue, saying that this was a moving message from President Zelensky, and he thanked the Congress for supporting him in this effort to get more military aid to Ukraine right away.
And David, I think this very much was a response to those pleas, if you will, that President Zelensky delivered here to Washington just a couple of hours ago. This was also a message from President Biden to the American people and to, frankly, anyone in the world who sees these horrific images that are playing out in front of us in Ukraine right now and wondering, where is America in all of this? If America is not sending in troops, if America is not going to release those MiGs that Poland and Ukraine had wanted released, what is America doing? So this is the president laying out exactly what the United States has been doing as it relates to humanitarian and military aid to Ukraine. And you said at the big top line number there, $1 billion in aid just this week alone, some $650 million in weapons. The last year before the invasion, you heard President Zelensky make a direct appeal to the United States for more of those anti-tank, more of those aircraft surface-to-air missiles. President Biden saying that they, in fact, have delivered those and they will continue to deliver more. 600 Stingers, 2,600 Javelin. Those are those anti-tank missiles that the United States didn't want to give to Ukraine initially. You see those numbers there, David. But in the wake of this conflict, they had given them. The concern early on was that giving weapons like this to Ukraine would signify a potential escalation to Russia. So the United States had hesitated to do that. David, you know this. There has been increasing criticism here in Washington, particularly from Republicans who have pushed this president to do more, to act faster, to act stronger, particularly when it comes to sending weapons to Ukraine. Mitch McConnell saying the last few hours, yesterday basically, that the United States, this White House, has been too slow to respond. So I think this is President Biden doing a little bit of politics here, saying we have been helping the American people. He said directly, David, are answering Ukraine's calls, and he lays out that list of weapons that have been sent in the last year.
Yeah, Cecilia Vega at the White House. Cecilia, thank you. And as Cecilia mentioned there, not only additional aid and military help to Ukraine, but a messaging effort by the White House to remind not only this country, but the world what the U.S. has done so far. And we should point out that Ukraine's President Zelensky, in his appeal to the Congress and to the American people, also thanked President Biden for the help so far from the U.S. And from the West. I want to bring in Martha Raddatz, who is live inside Ukraine. She's in Lviv for us again. And Martha, you and I have been talking about this for quite some time now, this concern. Now that we have signposted for the world, the U.S., the additional military equipment, the help that's now on the way, how you then get that to the Ukrainian people without becoming potential targets for the Russians.
And you are a potential target. They've been very successful in getting the equipment into the country and to the front lines, but the Russians are watching this carefully. And the U.S. fears that the Russians will strike one of these convoys inside Ukraine and possibly in Poland. So that is a real danger and something they think about. As for that no-fly zone, of course, President Biden is not going to provide a no-fly zone, but a no-fly zone would not stop the war. In fact, the strike in western Ukraine, about an hour from where I am right now, was launched out of Russia. A no-fly zone would not stop that. They launched 30 cruise missiles from aircraft and hit a military training facility in western Ukraine. It would not stop that. These weapons that the U.S. is sending in, they believe, will truly help Ukraine in this fight. David.
Martha Raddatz, our thanks to you in that attack that Martha speaks of, just about 10 miles from the Poland border, right there on NATO's doorstep. I want to bring in Rachel Scott, who's live up on the Hill, for one last question on this before we go. And Rachel, you heard Cecilia point out that there had been Republicans on the Hill pushing the president to do more. What they are in concert on, though, is the no to the no-fly zone. This has become somewhat of a political debate, how quickly the help can get to Ukraine and how much more the president should be giving at this moment. It would appear the White House wanted to make it very clear this afternoon that we are stepping forward and quickly here.
Yes, David, but there is a growing urgency here on Capitol Hill for the U.S. and for Congress, frankly, to do even more. We're seeing bipartisan calls for tougher sanctions to deliver more lethal aid. But again, that no-fly zone, something that President Zelensky really emphasized in his address to Congress today, that is just a line that Congress is not willing to cross. Both Democrats and Republicans agree on that. Now, in just over an hour here, we will see House and Senate leadership receive a classified briefing on the situation. I'm told they plan to use that as a roadmap to help guide them on how to better address some of the requests that they're getting from President Zelensky. David?
Rachel Scott live on the Hill, and you're looking at images there just a moment ago of the standing ovation from U.S. lawmakers up on the Hill today when President Zelensky was finished with his address, not only to Congress, but of course to the American people, thanking the West, President Biden, for help, but them pleading for more as they continue to try to fend off Russian troops. Our coverage will continue on ABC News Live, abcnews.com, and I'll be back with the entire team you just saw here for World News Tonight later today. I'm David Muir in New York. We'll see you then. Good day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.